those watching the recording, if you're busy with work or life in general. It's Monday afternoon for me. Let's do our Monday market analysis and see where we are at. So just reloading quickly, scanning the news. Some gold pushing. I think the gold bugs are starting to get excited a bit. Wall Street learned to love Bitcoin. So I don't see any big things today that could move the price drastically. Also, on the calendar day, if you look at the macro today, no events. Not sure if it's a bank holiday or not in the US. Don't think so, but could be. And nothing really shocking until Thursday. We got the inflation figures. And like I usually say every MMA Zoom, I think it's not how bad or how good the figures are, it's how far they are from the forecasted figures. That is the market moving. So only Thursday at US market open, be aware of some stock market reaction, potentially dragging Bitcoin down. But for the rest, it looks like a nice and quiet week on the macro. Let's look at what the US dollar is doing. Perfectly called that reversal, TD sequential 8-9, reverse flags. Lovely move down, but we are pivoting at the 0.5 FIB so far. Could be a bit of a reaction there, but it does not seem to be quite strong. So I think the pivotal moment is here when my trend line and the 618 are waiting around that 94.5, 6-ish with a potential harmonic entry at 94-ish. But yeah, it's a bit tricky to say after all this sideways. We got a fake down, up, fake down, fake out, up. We might continue a bit more down. But if this keeps up, it looks better for Bitcoin if it doesn't pump or go really crazy there. But for the moment, it's doing exactly as predicted here. You see the white backgrounds, the TD sequential potential reverse zones, called this pivot perfectly, called this one also pretty nicely. It went straight down after making the 9 with a nice reversal candle. So I think a bit more downside potential for DXY, but be aware for a potential double bottom and a pump there around this area if we don't bounce here. My guess it will bounce some, make a double bottom here. Hope not, but let's see. Stock markets fell to still trending down on the 4-hour time frame at least. Yep, on the daily also pretty clear downtrends there. Yeah, that's interesting to see what will happen there, especially with the Fed decision in March. Will give some pressure in the coming weeks, but it's hard to say. There is a very valid argument for something like this on pretty much all the markets. So the interesting part will be, let's see, around probably 11 February. So that is on a Thursday when we also got the inflation figures. So it would be logical that we just go sideways in this triangle and see what those inflation figures will give us. That's probably also that will move this DXY. I think until then it might just slowly trickle down a bit towards these levels. But the stock markets are, yeah, in an accumulation range, squeezing into a triangle with pretty much the breakout climax on Thursday with the inflation numbers. So not expecting big move in the coming days. What can be good for Bitcoin, because if the volatility of the stock markets are a bit lower, then Bitcoin can pretty much make its own road there. Just quickly looking at gold, it's still in that weekly mega structure, decade-old cup and handle. That's why also the gold bugs are getting a bit enthusiastic. Also in a bit of a triangle-ish, but I think eventually it will hit that 2K again, and then it's going to be fun to watch. I'll definitely be on the lookout for some leverage trades on that level. So from a few days ago, I think last week, when I drew this one, my gut feeling prediction, so far, well, pretty good on track, if I may say so myself. Probably will end up a bit, pullback is a bit likely if you look at this, because we did kind of broke the trend line here. This on the daily chart, obviously. We did break the trend line with a solid pump, and we are now just slowly trying to move up again, but I think it will go down to test that trend line, and that's maybe the trend line or maybe even the bottom of that channel. And I think the other charts is also pointing into the same direction there, sadly. So I am expecting a bit of a pullback, and we'll check the other charts for the exact levels on that. Bitcoin dominance had a bit of a leg up, entered that potential reverse zone. It reversed a bit, but so far going pretty much sideways. But we are painting a bit of a bearish picture there. Slightly lower highs getting rejected. And we are at some harmonic entries. So yeah, not. We could see a couple of days of nice alt gains though. I think if Bitcoin keeps up like this, it will give the alts some time to recover until it takes that leg back. Ethereum to Bitcoin on the daily, pretty much valid still. It's a bit getting a bit messy with those fake outs, but obviously there are zones. There's the top zone, there's a bottom zone. So the 0.08 is still the line to watch there, but not much movement at the moment. So sorry, peak, no 10K Ethereum yet. I'm quickly checking well positions, still flat. Most people are waiting. The big guys there are still waiting to see what the market will bring. My very colorful total market cap, I think even more important than the Bitcoin chart itself. We bounced exactly on those. We got a whole bunch of harmonic entries here where we bounced from perfectly, consolidated sideways, and now we took off. And you see these Fibonacci and gun lines here. Oh no, both Fibonacci lines, sorry. That made a bit of resistance here, but we seem to broke through it. So just extending zones again. And we're now trying to break that resistance there. But I think the big resistance box is still around that $2 trillion. We have a bit of a recovery there. We did not break the trend line, I think, yet. If you're really conservative, we might have, but it's a bit in the zone there. I think the more valid trend line is something like this, with the most touch points on the way. It also aligns with this here. So we did break it, but backtesting this green zone is the logical way to move further in the future. So I'll just save it. You know, in the channel TM your charts, these links are posted, so you can always pull up my latest charts if I make some drawings or stuff like that. Going to some patterns and divergences. There is some MACD and RSI divergence in progress on the daily chart, and that's not the best sign. And even if we go to these daily harmonic here, then they will still be valid. So there is some space up, probably to maximum of 48K. If we manage to break this 44K first, 44K, 48K, and then probably a bit of a pullback there. Lower time frames, nothing really because of the sideways action, obviously. And I have to say, those zones that date all the way back to July and even February last year, they are so well respected here. Because we had that 33K, we floated around this zone here, broke it, fell low, test. Now we finally, with this CAN crossing that the price wants to avoid, we went straight to the next important zone, hit the bottom, hit the top, and now just taking a bit of a break. Because that CAN line was a bit too strong, obviously. That 1/2 was support here, bounced off, but failed again. Resistance, 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 resistance. So definitely these zones were spot on here, exactly to the dollar. So what can we expect on this chart? Let me just give it a bit more space. Obviously, we have to break these 43K resistance, and if we can't, 41-ish K is likely, and maybe even a bit wicking a bit below it to the 40.5-ish. But this zone is probably, don't see really much happening there. The lines are pretty steep from here. So the zone to break out is pretty much this. This is the resistance above us that we need to break down. And this is pretty much the support. So expect some bouncing in these areas. If we look at the Fibonacci and guns, maybe just a bit sideways more. Might look a bit boring, but you see we went down, we had quite a couple of days sideways, we went down, bounced a bit up sideways, and now we went up, so more sideways for a couple of, remove the toolbar, couple of days for this week, consolidating in this zone. It's pretty much likely. So if we look at all these charts, that gives us a range from 41K to 43, maybe 47. If we wick up there, so we do have quite a nice range to work with. And if you do some like 1 hour or below scalping, then I think it will be very, very tradable at the moment. Same story here. That line that we broke is currently about 38-ish on the daily charts. 38-ish, that would be just at the moment here. So that aligns with that one. So who knows? This seems to be the target area where we are likely to bounce up and down. So if you're trading, I would take some lower time frames and expect some sideways action with a pretty broad range. That usually means that we can trade the 1 hour or maybe the 24 or 30 minutes very nicely. So going to the 1 hour, I just wanted to do the 4 hour. The 4 hour, you see we got an anchor and trigger wave on the more hype, on the market hyper. That's putting potentially some bearish signal. We got the true money flow, still pretty much sideways, even though the pump. So the pump was not really volume supported, in my opinion. Also, the volume was quite low. We do have bearish volume divergence here. Also, we have the trend strength line being overbought at the moment. It's just above 80. And trend momentum is on the 4 hour is about to cross to the negative values. So the lower time frames are giving a bit of a more bearish picture, at least on the 4 hour. If we look at the 1 hour, you also see TD sequential top, and we now seeming to make a second lower high or a lower high here. Money flow is dropping here also in that TD sequential reversal zone. Trend momentum pivoted and the trend strength is also overbought. So even though the higher time frames look good for some sideways, I think we are looking at a bit of downwards move. The big support is obviously at 37.5, also 38-ish, like the other charts. So if I would have to make a guess, I think first stop is 40.5, what aligns with the Fibonacci also, and then 39-ish would be a logical pullback target. And even 37-ish would still be a higher low than the previous one. So personally, I am looking for some quick shorts. If we fall, for instance, through the EMA ribbon on the 1 hourly, then there's a nice Let's see if we can. I think the target is about 4% at least, maybe even 9–10%-ish. So not the best news on the short term, but you never know with Bitcoin. We did have a very strong weekly close. If we go to the weekly, see on a weekly level, we had a really strong last run in the last days, and we're making a bit of a, is it diverging? Yeah, it is trying to diverge on the weekly, and that is really interesting. So if you take the waves, you see we are now making on the blue wave trend a lower low, but on the price action, and I'll take candle close, we are making a higher low. So we are diverging on the weekly, and that is something we don't get that often. I think the last divergence we had was in March 20 on the weekly, and we all know what happened then. So on the higher time frames, it really looks quite solid. You see, we're making a higher low here on the weekly, and it's also diverging on market hyper. Let's quickly take another chart with more history, so you get trend momentum. Is trend momentum also? No, trend momentum is not diverging, but the wave trend definitely is on market hyper. It haven't showed it yet because it needs a bit more time, obviously. All the higher time frames, daily and weekly, look pretty good, but lower time frames feel like a bit of a pullback at the moment. Because we had like pretty 3 hours of rejection at this level, and now we didn't even make that again. So not shorting yet. Might be auto, please. I think there's plenty of space to take a pullback. So yeah, long term, midterm looks good. I think Bitcoin is recovering really nicely towards the upside. Also that the stock market is cooling down just a bit and also going sideways will help. US dollar dropping, that will help. So maybe a little pullback. Something like here. Yeah, 39-ish is definitely would be a very nice target there. Just reloading so I get all my trend lines back. $39, yeah. Yeah, definitely on the look for a short as soon as we break like 41.5. If we break that, then we're probably gonna hit 39.5-ish. And your stop loss is really easy, nice and tight. Let's, if we do a short here, target 39. You got a almost 1-to-6 risk reward ratio if you would enter it in the current state. If you wait to drop below the last low. That's around that 42,250-ish. And you keep your stop loss above the last high. You still have a very decent 3.5 risk reward, maybe even a bit. Yeah, almost 3.5 risk reward. So this is my play for today, I think. All right, let's quickly take a look at some alts. Just gonna quick scan. Some lists. Turn off some chart noise. Let's go to we are on the 4-hour. Shall we do, just gonna go to the Binance chart, I think. USDT perpetuals. Just gonna quickly scan if there's anything really amazing. That looks a bit topping out too. Like when you scan like this and you just look at this last zone, then you pretty much will see most of the alts painting exactly the same picture. And we are looking for something that breaks that picture. So quickly, we had pump sideways here, pump sideways there. And Alice, it's a meme coin, so I'm not trading that anyway. Pump sideways, same picture. ARPA chain, never heard of it, but it is stronger than most alts. I have no idea for the rest of it. Binance has so many weird coins, but all the bigger coins. AVAX did outperform a bit. It's also now pretty much the same story in all the alts, I think. Bitcoin Cash, really. Also an outperformer. Just quickly scanning if I see anything. Same story, same story. Oh, that one was outperforming a bit. Chili's. That's also pulling back now. Yeah. I have not seen a very clear. E-gold also outperforming, hitting that zone pretty nicely. If this manages to break that 186-ish, then it will be starting to look nice. Ethereum Classic. Some coins it just keeps surprising me that they are still around and being traded. What was that? Kala. Ooh, that looks bearish now. All the harmonics coming together. As soon as it drops a bit, it will probably go a long way down. So if you just scan these alts, you see there's no really big change there. The whole alt market seems to be waiting for Bitcoin to really choose a direction. Some are just even flatter than others, like Luna. Decentraland did pretty well, actually. This was looking so good that it went really good, and now it's just fading away. But so far, it's holding. So definitely on the lookout for it to break pretty much here. Just gonna set alerts or break down here-ish. Metal near also not doing any magic. All the alts pretty much look the same with it, just a very few exceptions at the moment. Just quickly scanning. If you want a real outperformance, you probably have to look at the much smaller altcoins. Like if you go through the Qcoin list, you'll probably find some better ones. Like this was interesting. Waves did have the same pullbacks, but they were so slightly, and it's just really slowly going up, and it's at a very critical support level now. But it is really interesting though. Look at this. There's potential. Just gonna switch that one to the daily. Oh boy, this is nice. It's not nice yet, but it could become really nice. I think I got 5 minutes of Zoom left. So if we just take waves on Binance, quickly taking this move, 88.6 broken, bounce. It's now forming a nice daily W on the 886, retrace after so much madness. So the point to break, I don't have much Zoom time left. One of these days I will switch to Teams, but I got some things to figure out. It's definitely a risky one, but realistically, this is your target. Obviously, if you go to low time frames, you can take tighter stop losses and stuff like this, but Waves does look really interesting. It has been completely destroyed, but now on the most critical level, it's making a daily W. If it breaks, yeah, well, actually, this is the breaking level, the top of the previous W. You could even reduce your stop loss to here, probably. Like that, probably $10 would be a nice stop loss, but still 15% downside potential with on a tight stop loss, but the upside potential is massive. So definitely want to watch. If it breaks the 12-ish, things could become really interesting really fast for Waves there. Back to the 4-hour. It's finishing the scan, not many left. Stellar is outperforming quite a bit. And also the critical level. I do like to see it break 0.25. Just an alert in case that happens. Monero also is those more mid-cap old ones that are having a party at the moment there. It's nice to set some alerts there. XRP, really? What are you doing? I know people have an opinion on this one. Look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth touch of the trend line, it broke it, it formed a structure and went off. Typical, like Lino showed us like 2 years ago.
I can almost hear him.
Yeah, you can hear him saying it, and it's almost, if it breaks at 80 cents, it could just go mad.
Oh God, I'm gonna avoid Twitter then. $50 XRP.
We're going to the moon again. Yeah, no kidding. It could just go 60% up in a blink of an eye. Actually worse. If it breaks that 80 cents and confirms it, it will probably hit that 3. Yeah, like 60 to 70% upside here.
Yeah, I wonder when the SEC lawsuit kind of settles. I haven't really been keeping highly up to date with that, but people always speak about it. I don't know. They've been waiting for this moon for like 5 years. I just don't see it coming anytime soon.
If I trade XRP, it's really short time frame. But
Trade XRP
886
always hits a stop loss. I hate that coin.
But now 886, 88.6% retrace, formed structure, broke the trend line, formed structure, and bounced off. So on the chart, it looks good.
It's almost like it's Forex. Jesus.
So my Zoom is about to quit. So thanks for watching.
Thanks, Jer. Till next time, guys.
I'll see you guys in the channel. Hopefully after this week, I got a bit more time when I'm settled in the new place. So Zcash, really? Just setting alerts. I'll come back to these ones.